Everybody, welcome back in to Talking SEC. I'm Phillip Jordan from Last Word on College Football, and joining me to talk things all Auburn football is Taylor Jones, Auburn Wire managing editor. And Taylor, nothing interesting going on at the Plains as we record this on a Tuesday evening. I have not heard of anything of a head coaching hire. I obviously have been sarcastic about it. But anyways, Taylor, I appreciate you coming on. We did this last month. I think the week after Harsin got fired, and now you're here with me again. Now that Auburn has a new football coach.
Yeah, looking forward to talking about Hugh Freeze, and of course, thank you again, Phillip, for having me on. Looking forward to talking about him and everything else going on with Auburn football.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We talked last time, and it's just your overall opinion, thoughts on Auburn naming Hugh Freeze the 31st head football coach.
In my opinion, I felt like it was the safest hire. John Cohen mentioned that earlier today too, talking about that Hugh Freeze was his guy and that they never wavered from that. And it kind of seems to make sense because when I think of him, I think of Gus Malzahn. There's just a lot of things that they do very similar. Of course, Malzahn and Hugh Freeze are really good friends, so it just seems like that's the go-to guy for Auburn football. Offensively, I think he's a great mind. Developing quarterbacks, I think he's a great mind. I guess now the big thing to see is what's he going to do with his staff? Is he going to bring in a great staff to help develop and also kind of get back under the thorn or under the side of Nick Saban again? Is he going to have fun running the SEC West? And it's just going to be a lot of fun, not only seeing him on the football field, but now you have Hugh Freeze, Lane Kiffin, Mike Leach, Sam Pittman, Jimbo Fisher, and Nick Saban all in the same division. So it's I can't remember where I saw it, but it seems like the SEC Network should have a reality show just with SEC West coaches and all the personalities that they have. So it's going to be a fun ride. I believe so.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting with Hugh Freeze. And look, I'll say this and get your thoughts. Obviously, there's the baggage, the what has happened in Hugh Freeze past, which and for him when he got asked about it on Tuesday at the press conference, he didn't run away from it. He owned up to it. He talked about it. But first, from just on the field wise, I think this is a good hire for Auburn because the man could coach. I mean, 8 wins every year at Liberty, 10 in 2020. We saw what he did at Ole Miss. I mean, obviously, when you beat Alabama, that helps you out with Auburn people being the new head coach. Just what you've seen of him, just what he can be for Auburn, just on the field, the football coach, what the kind of product Auburn can be with him as the coach.
I think offensively it's going to be a lot of fun. As we mentioned, Gus Malzahn, he's a hurry up, no huddle guy. It's going to be completely out of the shotgun. I think the big thing that Auburn fans will need to look for is his quarterback development. One guy in particular that I think of when I think of Hugh Freeze is Malik Willis, a guy that started off at Auburn, never could quite get the number one spot, losing to Jared Stidham and then ultimately Bo Nix. He goes to Liberty, throws for over 5,000 yards and over 40 touchdowns, and now turned into a third-round draft pick by the Tennessee Titans. So that's, of course, one guy to look at. And, I'm starting to do a project now on all of the top recruits that Hugh Freeze has ever gotten. And you think of what he did with Chad Kelly. You think of what he did with Bo Wallace. Think of what he did with the little time that he had Shea Patterson. And I think we're going to see a resurgence in the quarterback battle. And usually when things go well with the quarterback battle, everything else seems to go well offensively as well. Robbie Ashford, he liked the idea of having Hugh Freeze, but he mentioned today too that he and Willis have a great relationship together. And he said as soon as the news became official, the first thing he did was call Malik Willis. And his quote, was somewhere along the lines of, well, look at what he did for Malik. I think he can develop me into the quarterback that I ultimately want to become. So I think that's probably going to be the one thing that you'll notice right away. Will Robbie Ashford be the guy? Will Zach Calzada be the guy? There's a handful of quarterbacks already in the transfer portal. Are they going to get one of those guys to come in? But either way, you're going to see an improvement in quarterback play under Hugh Freeze. And that's something, as me being an offensive guy, just me personally, it's something I'm really looking forward to on the Plains.
Yeah, and the difference, I think, obviously, and you brought it up, there are the comparisons to Gus Malzahn with Hugh Freeze. It goes beyond the visors, I believe.
Yeah,
the kind of offense they want to run. But Hugh Freeze doesn't wear the sweater vest like
he does
like
not.
Gus,
He publicly denounced those sweater vests.
He did. He did. But Hugh Freeze is going to be more. His offense is more of a passing offense. I
Yeah.
mean, he will run the ball and attempt to run the ball versus what Gus was of course was a run heavy out of the spread. And that's one thing that's interesting. And you talked about Robbie Ashford. When you look at what Robbie Ashford is right now, very, very similar to what Malik Willis was when he left Auburn, when, he wasn't going to be the start quarterback. Tremendous athlete. You knew he had a talented arm, but just not developed as a quarterback. And I know Robbie Ashford, you talked about he's looking forward to Hugh Freeze. He made the tweet yesterday. He was excited. Obviously, you can tell by his tweet about Hugh Freeze. And interesting, in the press conference, Hugh Freeze brought up that touchdown pass that Robbie Ashford threw in the Iron Bowl. And Taylor, I thought he overthrew it. When he threw it, I thought the ball was going to go out of the back of the end zone. It was a beautiful touchdown pass in the Iron Bowl, and Hugh Freeze talked about that. So he sees the potential in Robbie Ashford and what he can do.
Yeah, going back to that pass too, that was something that, of course, on the camera it was like, oh, he's going to overshoot him. But then when you actually saw where the ball was, I don't think he could have perfectly placed it in between those two defenders any better than he did. So that was pretty amazing too. And that's kind of been the one discount I've had with Robbie Ashford so far. And I don't know if it's because of receivers. I don't know if it's because of offensive line or what it is. But he has no problem running the football. He has no problem getting out of trouble. It's just connecting with those receivers and him having time to do so. Another thing that I look at is, he reeled in Laquan Treadwell as a recruiter at Ole Miss, as is DK Metcalf, two guys that did very well at their time at Ole Miss too. So I think not only will he develop the quarterbacks in a great spot, but I think too he's going to try to do everything he can to put the best players on the field with him. And I think that's ultimately going to be the deciding factor in how well Robbie develops under Hugh Freeze. He's got to have better receivers, better options out there for him. And I think Hugh Freeze is going to bring that in.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if this was not a Hugh Freeze recruit, but I believe he was. And just spotting quarterback talent. Jordan Ta'amu was a very underrated quarterback when he was at Ole Miss because he took over when Shea Patterson left to go to Michigan. I believe that was a Hugh Freeze recruit, though. I may be wrong, but that was another player.
I believe he was. That was, I think it was towards the end of his time at Ole Miss, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, so I know he didn't develop him, but he still spotted the talent and, and brought him in. So, that's one thing, good thing there. But I think the best decision, obviously, we all were wondering, I think, what was going to be of Carnell Cadillac Williams when the new coach came in. And the first thing Hugh Freeze talked about today was that Carnell is not only going to be the running backs coach, but the associate head coach too as well, and talked about how planning on working together to help him learn more about Auburn and get this team where they need to be. If you wanted to get in the good graces really quickly with Auburn people, I think that was a very smart move, and it needs to happen just because the way these players love him.
Yeah, and you could definitely tell when he said that too, is that it wasn't just, I feel pressure to do so. It wasn't that John Cohen made me do it. Like he talked about how his schedule lined up the last 4 games of the year as opposed to what Auburn did. He said he got to watch a lot of the games live. He talked about that Texas A&M game specifically where both teams were 3-6 at the time, but at Jordan-Hare Stadium, you would have thought that it was, Deep South oldest rivalry with number 1 and number 4 together, or an Iron Bowl with the SEC West title on the line. He, saw a difference in how the players got up for Cadillac. He saw the energy that he brought, and he said that is going to be the key to keeping the energy that he brings in. It's all going to run through him, and I have to have him by my side in order to get this going. And I could tell he was very sincere about that. I believe that he knows that everything is going to run through Cadillac. Recruiting is going to run through Cadillac. I mean, you could even see it on social media, is that, there were several commits that were saying, hey, thank you, Cadillac. And they were posting pictures with Cadillac saying, hey, I'm glad that you're still going to be here. So I think he knows how important Cadillac is, and he's going to do everything he can, not only to improve the stock of Auburn football, but also probably develop him into a better coach as well, too, because I know Cadillac right now with only 4 games of experience, I know, 3 months ago, that wasn't something that he thought would ever happen. And I think he's a better coach for what happened. And I think he'll be a good head coach someday, but I think he's really going to value this time that he has with Hugh Freeze. And I think he's ready to get going.
Yeah. So let's circle back. So this time last week, the story, John Sokoloff out of Mississippi reported that Lane Kiffin was going to be the next Auburn coach. He would step down after the Egg Bowl. Everybody knows the story. And honestly, everybody thought that's where it was going. Maybe John jumped the gun. I don't know. What do you think happened with the Lane Kiffin situation?
And I mean, I believe that he was truthful when he said that he hadn't received an offer from anybody. But I also kind of wonder at the same time, just by how Lane reacted, of continuing to go after John, and even
Destroyed him.
Even after it was official that Hugh Freeze was going to be the guy, still went after him. I got to give him props though. He did say something to his face at the end of the Egg Bowl during the press conference. I mean, I know it's kind of petty, but I do respect him for it, that he at least said something to his face instead of just, kept rattling off tweets that he did. But part of me wonders if Kiffin did think about it, but the news was broken before he wanted it to. And I think that's what caused the reaction to happen. But, did he want to become the Auburn head coach? I'm not really sure. Did he want to, build up a little bit more of a base at Ole Miss before maybe taking the Alabama job? Because I know he and Lane Kiffin, or he and Nick Saban are big friends, and maybe he didn't want to rub him the wrong way in that way. But I think it's just another thing too. He mentioned family, not willing to relocate. That was one of the big things. And when you look back at his coaching career, the longest place that he's been a head coach was at USC, and he was only there for 4 seasons. He was at FAU, I think, for 2 or 3 years. I can't remember. He was at Alabama not that long. He was with the Oakland Raiders for not that long. He was only at Tennessee for 1 season, and now he just completed his 3rd season in Ole Miss. So I kind of wonder if he just wants to settle down for a little bit, or maybe his family was like, hey, we're tired of this moving thing. Let's hang out here for a few more years and kind of see where it goes. I think he's in no danger of losing his job at Ole Miss, as his new contract extension warrants. I think that he's probably got them going in the best direction that they've ever had consistently. I don't know how serious of a candidate he was at Auburn, or how interested he was totally, but I think the news that Sokoloff broke, and I mean a handful of others too. I mean, you had David Pollock that said the same thing. You felt that Paul Feinbaum and several of the others kind of thought that was where it was headed to. But I kind of wonder if he reacted the way that he did just because of it getting out before, or it got out before he could control the story, I guess. Felt like he wanted to talk about that on his own terms and didn't really get that opportunity. And so that's probably why he got agitated, and that's probably why he's staying at Ole Miss.
Yeah, I feel bad for John Sokoloff to a degree. I mean, it's bad enough if you got a report wrong, but then said coach, and you still got to deal with Lane. That's the whole thing. That's
for as long as he's at Ole Miss, he's going to be an example of everything that happens. We think that this player's hurt or this player may be suspended. It's, did Sokoloff tell you that? It's just going to be one of those things that he's going to have to live with as long as Lane Kiffin's in Mississippi.
Yeah, absolutely. And my thing about why I thought Lane Kiffin would have been a good hire for Auburn was his ability in the transfer portal. And I was talking to some people I know that are Auburn fans. We just talk with friends and stuff like that. I said, I'm not saying Hugh Freeze can't do that. We just don't know. We know Lane Kiffin's ability in the transfer portal. I mean, look, this is not a shot at Liberty, but a lot of top guys in the transfer portal are not going to say, let me go transfer to Liberty. It's just, that's just not going to be the situation. But now he's at Auburn. That's going to be key. And I know he was asked about it. I know he said he wants to build his team off of high school recruits. But to me, the biggest thing this first cycle, I mean, next week, transfer portal, he's got to really rebuild this roster through the transfer portal, because there's a lot of needs on this team. I mean, yes, I know he talked about Robbie Ashford. You bring Zach Calzada, Harold Gardner's there. But as you said, quarterbacks in the portal, it would not hurt to look at any of them. Offensive line has been a struggle. I think linebackers were an issue a little bit on the defense at times this year. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, is the transfer portal right now maybe a higher priority than the high school recruits, just to get this team back in good footing?
Yeah, I would say so, just based on the offensive line standpoint. Quarterback could be something, but if he feels like he can work with Ashford or maybe Calzada, that may not be as big of an issue. You bring up linebackers too. You have Derek Hall and Owen Papo that are going to be gone this year. Chandler Wooden or Colby Wooden, I should say, is going to be gone as well too. So you're going to be depleted in that area as well. So it wouldn't hurt to look. I haven't looked to see exactly, linebackers and offensive linemen that have put their names in the portal, but as of right now, Cade McNamara from Michigan is in the portal. Another Mississippi guy, Luke Altmaier, that
Mm-hmm.
just was put in the portal with Ole Miss. There's a couple of guys to look at as well too. So yeah, the transfer portal is going to be interesting, and I think just to build a base, probably wouldn't hurt to have a 1 or 2 year guy in there just to one maybe fill the void and further development, but also they can be a great leadership role to those high school seniors that he's hoping to bring in.
So we've talked a lot of positives about Hugh Freeze. Obviously, and as I brought up in the top, the baggage, what happened at Ole Miss, the NCAA stuff. Obviously, the reason why, and that wasn't even the reason why he lost his job at Ole Miss. It was the stuff with the escorts.
Yeah.
So for you, what are your concerns with Hugh Freeze?
It's just going to be a matter of, does he behave or not
Mm-hmm.
at Auburn? I'm a full believer in, there's, redemption for everybody if they
Mm-hmm.
truly want to get better. In his press conference today, you could definitely tell that those things in his past continue to bother him, but he hopes to look past them. And I think from what was reported as well with John Cohen and Dr. Christopher Roberts, doing the background checks. They talk to FBI agents, they talk to fellow coaches, they talk to university presidents from Ole Miss and Liberty and all that, just to kind of be sure hey, is he on the right track, or all the things that he was accused of doing that ultimately led to his departure from Ole Miss. Does you feel like he's learned from that? Is the situation as bad as it seems? And even after all of that, it seems like everything is going well in favor of Hugh Freeze. The folks in the SEC office, including Greg Sankey, seem to be okay with the hire. So I think as long as he understands that, he's the leash is probably not going to be as long here at Auburn. He's already got a lot of eyes on him right now, just based on social media, and a lot of the people on social media took time to send emails to the president and athletic director as well. So he knows that he's already being watched, and I think that this is a great redemption story for him if he does it. And if it's more, about football and kind of rebuilding a family image, then that Auburn's the best place for him for sure, because you look at the the Auburn family is something that they push, and you look at Bruce Pearl, even though Bruce Pearl and Hugh Freeze, you can't really compare what they two did at their previous institutions. But you look at Bruce Pearl, he's welcomed in Auburn. You look at Cam Newton's history and and how he leaves Auburn, and how people are still talking about him. And it's amazing to me that there's so many Carolina Panthers fans here in the state of Alabama because of Cam Newton.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if he proves to the Auburn family that he is changed and that he wants to do better for himself, and I think ultimately fans will welcome him in and love him as our own.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, winning cures a lot of things.
It does. It does.
And it was success. And just, I expect Auburn to be a much better team under him than they were Brian Harsin. And with Carnell by his side, with that energy, because as he said in the press conference, he said, I'm going to need you to do the running around, because I can't do it. I can't do that. But it's going to be fun going through this off season, getting to the spring, and then obviously going in next season. And Taylor, this has been a lot of fun as always. I appreciate you coming on. Kind of short notice how we schedule this, but I appreciate you coming on, talking about Hugh Freeze being the new Auburn head coach. If the listeners and viewers want to check you out online, where can they find you, and where can they check out the Auburn Wire?
You can visit us on Twitter at Auburn at the Auburn Wire. And we've got a lot of stories coming up, a lot of stories today on Hugh Freeze, a lot of what he said at the press conference. We also have a photo gallery just of his time at Ole Miss and at Liberty. We got a lot of stories on Carnell Williams as well, and his new position as associate head coach and running backs coach. Had a post on Robbie Ashford too, just a little bit more of what he thinks of Hugh Freeze. And then coming up over the next couple of days, we'll of course try to get everybody caught up on what the talking heads are saying around the nation about Hugh Freeze, what recruits are saying. Of course, basketball coverage coming up at the end of the week too, as the Tigers get ready to take on Colgate. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you can find us at auburnwire.usatoday.com. Check us out.
All right, sounds good. Everybody go check out Taylor. Go check out the Auburn Wire. They do a good job keeping you updated on all things Auburn Tiger sports. And Taylor, appreciate the time and look forward to talking again sometime down the road.
I appreciate you too, Philip. Thanks for having me on.